Hello, everybody, and welcome to a victory green hour as the Philadelphia Eagles go to Minnesota and defeat the Minnesota Vikings 28-22 to get back in the win column after two consecutive losses. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
I'd like to apologize first and foremost. We did not get a very good or any preview episode out because my laptop decided to just completely drop me off and we didn't get a chance to preview. So I want to apologize in advance for that. But I mean, it's good to be back in the win column. And I think we should start off with this before we break into the game. How was the trip to Minnesota? And what is your unbiased, who cares about the Minnesota Vikings? What is your unbiased opinion of the stadium? It looks beautiful.
So before we get to that, let me do my preamble here. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRL54. And follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live, let us know your thoughts on the game, your player of the game. If you went to the game, let us know also your thoughts of Minnesota and US Bank Stadium. But yes, in regards to that, US Bank Stadium I like it a lot. I've been to, not counting Lincoln Financial Field, I've been to only three stadiums. But next year, if things play out well, I'm going to go to Nashville for the Eagles Titans game. So I'm trying to do an away game a year in a city that I haven't been in. I've been to Dallas, so I've seen AT&T Stadium, US Bank Stadium in Minnesota, and Crap Life Stadium in Jersey because I went to an Eagles-Jets game. That's last. I'm not, and again, I'm not counting Lincoln Financial Field. I would put US Bank Stadium number one, AT&T Stadium two, MetLife Stadium at number three of the three others that I have been to. It is very, very beautiful. The one thing that was weird, I hate the Skull chant and I hate their stupid Viking song. And they play it after they score points. So even if it's after a field goal, when the Eagles kick a field goal, I'm pretty sure they don't play the fight song. So, but that stupid Skull chant or Skull song is annoying as hell. The horn is annoying. But that's their thing. So it's theirs. So we're as a visiting team or as a visiting fan, we're supposed to be annoyed at it. But the stadium is really nice. It wasn't loud though. Maybe that was because of the number of Eagles fans there. There were a lot of Eagles fans there. So on Saturday, because we got in late Friday night, Saturday, we kind of explored, went to Mall of America, saw nothing but Eagles fans. It was crazy. And if you were wearing anything Eagles, I had an Eagles shirt on. I don't think I've ever said "Go Birds" as much in my life as I said it this past weekend. And it was everybody that you saw, "Go Birds." It was just "Go Birds, go Birds this, go Birds that." It was awesome. But yeah, it's a really nice stadium. And I do not, and I'm going to say this time, when the Eagles get a new stadium, I do not want it to be a dome stadium. If it has a retractable roof because Jeff Lurie wants to have the Super Bowl, the CFP playoffs, NCAA tournament, and whatnot, fine. But if there needs to be a stipulation in the contract that whenever the Eagles play, regardless of weather, it's open, because we wouldn't have the Snow Bowl like we did against Detroit 12 years ago, whatever it was. We wouldn't have the snow in like we did against the Rams in the playoffs last year. All that is aside. I mean, it's not the view, the sight lines are pretty good. I sat up in the 300 level and I sent a picture to our group. I put it on Twitter, I think, on our Twitter page, Facebook and whatnot. Instagram. The site views, you can see everything. It has two big screens in each end zone. But yeah, it was a very awesome stadium. I liked it a lot. And the most impressive part was after the game, and we leave the stadium to go back to the hotel. They have a blue line. They have the metro station right out. Literally, and again, you have thousands and thousands of fans coming out. Literally, it took us from the end of the game to when I got back to the hotel 45 minutes. If this was Philly, I would have been in the parking lot for 3 hours. So that is one thing that I was most impressed by in terms of just their just the efficiency of getting fans and getting them out, and the public transportation was huge there. Something Philly could definitely learn from. But yeah, I was very, very impressed with what I saw in Minnesota. It was a great great time. I enjoyed it, and I would definitely go back. But like I said, next year, Nashville, as long as things work out, I'll be going to see the Eagles and Titans game next year.
Yeah, I mean, watching some of the baseball, and the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays both have retractable roofs. I see a huge benefit to just doing a retractable roof. I think that a sport like football, there's a major element to playing in the elements. And you see that in Buffalo, you see that in Philly, you see that at Lambeau. Those are you get some of the best games you will ever remember in football history from those stadiums. And it's because they're open to the elements. So, I mean, I'm all for a retractable roof. I thought for baseball, like Seattle, they had the roof open for some of the games. They had it closed for some games. Same with Toronto, because, I mean, it's starting to get pretty cold up here in Canada. So, of course, it's getting cooler in those conditions. But those retractable roofs allow for them to get those indoor shows, which most of them come in the warmer weather anyways, the stadium shows like concerts and stuff. But it gives them the opportunity that if somebody's doing a tour in the winter or whatever, they have the opportunity to still do it. I mean, you know that these stadiums are banking on football teams. You know that the majority, if not all of the money that they make is going to come from these football teams. That's why, when they talk about how much Jerry Jones is worth, the concert output or other events output is probably minuscule in comparison to what the actual true value of the Dallas Cowboys are and what they bring to AT&T Stadium. But obviously, I don't want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys that way. And JP feels the same way as us. I'll never attend a Super Bowl anyway, so to hell with the roof.
The Super Bowl is not for the common guy. The ticket prices are ridiculous.
Not anymore. Definitely not for the common guys. So, I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed your trip. It looked like you had a good time. I mean, that thing in the mall with the 32 football helmets, that was a pretty cool
awesome
concept.
That's really cool. I think so. In Jersey, right near MetLife Stadium, there's the American Dream Mall. It's pretty much built like the Mall of America. They don't have that in there, and I feel like that's something that they should definitely incorporate. It's like I said, Mall of America was built by pretty much the same people that built American Dream Mall in Jersey was pretty much built by the same concept behind those that built Mall of America. So it was really, like I said, it was really cool. And I didn't realize that when we went Saturday. I didn't know about it. I think I saw a picture on Facebook. So we went back Monday before our flight, and I found it and made sure I got a couple of pictures. Yes, but it was a really good time.
Talk about America's sport when in the middle of a giant mall, you just have all 32 football teams helmets and they were like LJ size. Like they were like life-size helmets like that.
Yeah, they were. Well, I wonder. I did. Yeah, right. It was almost as big as me. I do wonder though. They did have remember the Super Bowl was there in 2018. I wonder if that's something they incorporated then and just left it there, which is really smart. Like, what's the point of taking it out? There was open space there. There's nothing there. Why just leave the helmets there? So it is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could put benches there and spots for people to sit, but you're probably attracting a lot of tourists there to go and take a picture like you with their team's football helmet and celebrate something that's kind of really cool and unique. But enough about your trip. How about let's get to the game? Yeah,
definitely. For one thing, we got the full Carson Wentz experience. Some good, some bad, some ugly. So the first drive, we'll start with the Eagles' first drive. It was, again, it seems like they're doing opening scripts. It seems as if the opening script have done pretty well, and that was a good one. They ran it, I think, 9 times, threw it 3 times. My only issue was that 4th down play in which they threw the touchdown pass to AJ. Did you see AJ's initial route?
Oh,
it was like a 3-yard. It was a 3-yard out. It was awful. If it wasn't for the pass protection, which they deserve a lot of credit, and it wasn't Jalen changing it up, they might not have converted that, and that could have changed the game completely. So Kevin Patullo is not fully off the what word am I looking for?
Off the hook.
Thank you. I don't know why my brain froze up. He's not fully off the hook. While the Eagles threw the ball well, they didn't run the ball well, but some of the routes weren't smart. And if it wasn't for, again, Jalen being smart and offense, things could have changed. So I am appreciative of that. And it's crazy. Like AJ had a great game and he still looks mad. Maybe that's just him. Again, remember after the Super Bowl last year, he said he gets enjoyment by dominating. Like winning the Super Bowl, it was fun. It was awesome. But he also just didn't get enjoyment from it as much as he gets enjoyment. Like, so I don't know what's going to change. Maybe if he gets he had 4 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. If he gets another game going over 100 yards, maybe he'll start getting that happiness, or maybe that's like, he's trying to find a way to motivate himself. And maybe putting all this cryptic stuff out on Twitter is a way to motivate himself. And, he just doesn't care what the media says about it, because no matter what he puts on Twitter, the talking heads are going to run with it and think it means one thing when it can mean nothing at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think I saw him post something today or within the last 24, 48 hours on Instagram where it said, use me, but don't use me. Mm-hmm. And people are already like, oh, the media is obviously going to run with this. Of course they're going to run with this. This is what they get paid to do. They don't get paid to actually give you good, valuable content. Some of them are pretty good, but the majority of them are just really not good and are just finding something to overreact to, finding something to react to and talk about. But I agree with you. To what he's done this, no matter what, he has done this almost, maybe not in the first couple of years in his time in Philadelphia, but over the last 2-3 years, this is all we've seen. If somebody is talking to him, he's not listening. He doesn't care. He's doing what he's doing. And I agree with you. To what point do we say maybe it's not that he's unhappy? Maybe he just genuinely finds this as a way that gets him excited. It drives him. It makes him the best player that he can possibly be. Maybe that is genuinely all it is. I couldn't tell you. But if somebody is talking to him, he's not listening and he doesn't care. Or maybe no one's talking to him because they know that this is AJ Brown. This is what he's like. This is how he acts. This is what motivates him. Everybody ticks a different way. Everybody becomes motivated a different way. And in some of these situations where people are disgruntled, most of the time things get out that the player or the agent wants to get to the media of, we want out. But all that it ever is about AJ Brown is other anonymous GMs or anonymous player personnel on other teams are saying they think AJ will be traded. They think AJ wants out. But never have we reached the point yet where AJ Brown or his agent has gotten something out there that says, okay, I want out, I'm done, I'm requesting a trade, which usually happens which almost pretty much always happens to the truly genuinely disgruntled wide receiver or football in the NFL. So I don't know. I would tend to start to feel like I need to agree with you on this, LJ, in regards to it purely just seems like a motivational tactic for him. Even like post Super Bowl, he just didn't seem happy because he just wants to win. All he wants to do is win, win, win. And I get it. I fully get it. It's good. I agree with you. I want to hit on Kevin Petula quickly. I agree with you. I think that you can't let him off the hook. What was unique about this game is, like you said, his 3rd and 4th down routes, horrendous. I don't think there is any route on 3rd or 4th down of 5 yards or more that ever makes it past the sticks. On the initial route, it feels like not one route is meant to go beyond the sticks, and they're hoping that the player does enough with the route after the catch to get the first down. And that just should not be how it is in today's NFL. You got to find a way to get a couple routes beyond the sticks and get beyond the sticks because you need that first down. That I agree with you. That situation was not good. I know that some people are looking at the Devontae Smith charts and they're like, this is how it should be. I don't think that all those route run charts on his targets and his catches were all drawn up that specific way by Kevin Petula. It really felt like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown did a lot more on their own to make things happen in this game than we have seen throughout most of the rest of the earlier part of this season.
Yeah, definitely. And Jalen, something does have. It's just like something does have to change in regards to that. Like the routes are just so simplified. Nothing, and that doesn't work in this NFL. And like when the Eagles did a great job. Jalen did a great job against the very aggressive Brian Flores defense. The Eagles struggle with zone, and that's what they like to do. And, I would still take Isaiah Rodgers back as our second corner because he's better than Jackson and better than Ringo, but he really had himself a bad day. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith really did a number on him. I think he gave up over 150 yards receiving, 100 to Devontae. But yeah, so kind of going back to the game. First off, Jalen Hurts with his perfect passer rating, the third quarterback in Eagles history. He was 19 of 23, 326, 3 touchdowns, joining Donovan McNabb and Nick Foles as the only other Eagles quarterbacks to have a perfect passer rating. And isn't it shocking? He's the first quarterback this year to get a perfect passer rating after the first, 6 games where the passing offense struggling for the most part. The defense. Actually, I want to go to the offensive line real quick. Losing Cam Jurgens really hurt. They could not run the football, and Brett Toth is not an NFL player. I don't know what their obsession is with him, but if Jurgens can't go next week, it has to be Drew Kendall or who's the guy that they got from the Rams that's on the IR. If he's healthy enough, if he's healthy enough, bring him off IR. I don't know if he's even eligible, but it can't be Toth. But I'm hoping. I know it's a knee injury with Jurgens. I'm hoping I don't know if he's going to be able to come back. Fortunately, it's not at MetLife. It's going to be in Philly, so the grass maybe would be able to help. But it cannot be Brett Toth at center. Or they put Dickerson at center and put Fred Johnson at left guard. But Toth cannot be on that line. They cannot run. He was getting beat like a drum the entire game. Whether it was Hargraves or Allen, whoever was over him was just pushing him right back into Jalen. And if there was if McKee was back there, McKee might have got sacked 6-7 times, but Jalen's ability to be able to move around in the pocket was the reason why he was able to find receivers when needed. But Toth, I don't know what their Jeff Stoutland's obsession is with him. He cannot be on the field on Sunday if Jurgens can go or can't go.
I think for this week, the issue was that Drew Kendall was not active and they didn't have anybody else who was able to snap the football. And I think that was the
Dickerson
issue.
can.
Dickerson can, but do you want to move Dickerson in and then? But guess who's there? Brett Toth moves in at left guard.
Put Fred Johnson at left guard. Put Fred Johnson at left guard.
You have more options if you kick Dickerson inside. I do agree. I think Drew Kendall has to be the guy. I think this week proved to you that Drew Kendall needs to be the active backup center no matter what. And clearly, Cam Jurgens is banged up. Landon Dickerson is banged up. Both of these guys are banged up. You need to have a backup plan for each of them because you never know what game they're going to be able to complete and what game they might not be able to get through. But I agree with you, Brett Toth. The last 2 weeks, we've genuinely seen enough he makes the entire offensive line weaker. He makes the whole pass game or the whole rushing game weaker. The passing game, though, uniquely, they kind of got into that punt 3-and-out rhythm there, and then Jurgens got injured and Toth came in, and Toth is not a good longer snapper, so they were forced from the shotgun to under center a lot more, and unironically I think they ended up becoming a lot better in the passing game for the rest of the game, and then they came out and I think they scored on 3 of 4 possessions in the second half, so then they ended up with being forced to go under center, actually became an even better passing team that way. Of course, it didn't help the Russian attack, but I guess in a way they didn't really need the Russian attack because they were able to do everything they needed to through the air. It would have been nice to have. Agreed.
My issue with the whole not being able to run the football is they can't milk the clock in the fourth quarter, and that could definitely come back to haunt them. But yeah, with Toth not being a good shotgun snapper, it did force them under center, I think. And I hope that when Jurgens comes back, or if they put Kendall in there, if they put Dickerson at center, that they don't go away from it. Putting Jalen under center, and you can utilize the play action game, even if the running game's not going well, you still have to kind of Saquon is still a threat. You still have to to hesitate if they do if Jalen puts his arm out to potentially hand it off to Saquon, and that opens up the receivers down the field. And the one thing, the Schmitty touchdown and the 79-yarder, they knew if they got into us, he came in at the locker room and said, look, if we go into this formation, this is what's going to happen. And it's exactly what happened. They brought the safety down, 1-on-1, Smith on Isaiah Rodgers, double move, boom, go, touchdown. How you don't see this and then not implement it week after week after week is the most frustrating thing with this coaching staff, with Patullo and his play calling. It seems like one play doesn't set up the next play, doesn't set up the next play. You should have a rhyme and a rhythm with why you call plays. And right now, at least, it doesn't seem like he's consistent with that. Going back to the second quarter of the game, Jalen Carter absolutely destroyed Carson Wentz on the Jalix Hunt pick six. And after that, Carson was rattled for a couple of drives. But a healthy Jalen Carter means a lot for this team. And, it was smart not to play him against the Giants last week, but being able to get him back, he had a couple, he wasn't perfect, obviously, but having him out there, it helps. Now, they still didn't get pressure on Wentz. They only had 2 sacks, but Wentz had a lot of time back there. Jalen Carter does help everybody else around there. And also Nakobe Dean, getting him back is I think he's the heart and soul of that defense. And you can see he's if we had him if we had a healthier Nakobe against the Giants, I don't know if they fold and play as gutless as they did in that second half. So I think the more he can get on the field and you can move Jahad Campbell or Zach Baldwin around and keep all 3 on the field, it's only going to help this defense. Again, I want to put the best 11 on the field, and that includes all 3 of those linebackers, Nakobe Dean, Zach Baldwin, and Jahad Campbell.
I agree on that point. I mean, we know how healthy Jalen Carter has obviously been inconsistent this year. He's been banged up. He missed the first game. Then he missed a game against the New York Giants. I mean, when you look at it, we're 7 weeks into the season. He's missed 2 games. He's been in and out. He was in and out of a couple games with injuries. So, I mean, has he really fully got his foot in underneath him? Is he maybe out of shape like Vic Fangio was kind of alluding to? It's difficult to tell, but you can tell he is a game wrecker, and you can tell he got into Carson Wentz's head, and Carson Wentz, like you said, he was up. They went 3 and out on a back-to-back drives after that, I think, and Carson Wentz just had no rhythm. He couldn't seem to get his feet under him, couldn't connect on a pass. So, I mean, that it was really good to see Jalen Carter have that moment in the spotlight and kind of show what he can do. But we need to see that more consistently, and we need to see healthy, focused, and in shape Jalen Carter going and getting after, because we know he was being compared by some to Aaron Donald, and we know that we've seen in games, we know that type of game is in him. It's just a matter of being consistent, being disciplined, and staying in shape and finding a way there. Vic Fangio doesn't mince words, and usually a lot of what Vic Fangio says about a lot of his players, you can almost take to the bank and see it speaking as truth, because a lot of those guys take it to heart, and you see a lot of those guys, except for the CB2, but a lot of them take it to heart and really put some work in and get the most that they can out of them. And again, it goes back to making you think what was wrong in Miami, and now you're definitely starting to see what was wrong in Miami. That's definitely wasn't Vic Fangio's fault. That's just a culture, major culture issue and overhaul needed in Miami. But Kenyon Mitchell had himself a fantastic game. I know that a lot of...
So he was good. I disagree with you on that. He was good against Jefferson. Addison cooked him.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, I guess that's... And he would... And I guess at times... you're going to get it. And he had a lot of help over the top with Jefferson. I know a lot of Vikings fans pointed that out too, but I mean, that's part of the game. You take away the best weapon, you take away the best asset, and they took that away, whether that was Evan Reed over top or Makuba over top. But that happens. But yes, he seems like Kenyon Mitchell's been a little inconsistent over the last couple of weeks. It feels like he does really well on one side of the field or against one wide receiver, and then it feels like he struggles when he's put up against, we'll say, the inferior wide receiver, because it feels like at times when he's moved away from the team's number one target, that's where they go after Kenyon and they're able to make something happen. Andrew Makuba, great pick. Insanely inconsistent play there too. His missed tackles are extremely costly. He's a big play waiting to happen, but he's also a big liability. I will give it to him. There's a lot of people who, and I'm sure you would probably feel the same way. There's a lot of people that say, how is this any better than CJGJ? CJGJ is what we would consider a veteran of the NFL now. Makuba is still a rookie. He's making some big plays. He's making some rookie mistakes. This should be expected, and we should expect that the growth will come and more consistency in his play will come. But obviously, the continuous weeks where he has, like, it feels like every week you can look back on a play and he missed a tackle that led to a massive gain. And I feel like there was a couple of occasions. I know there's one for sure, but I feel like there was a couple of occasions against Minnesota where we saw that again with Andrew Makuba, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it was the
but again, we have to remember he's a rookie.
It was the 50-yarder for Jefferson where he missed the tackle. And I'm still going to advocate for signing CJGJ. Look, you can put him in the slot, and then you can move the Gene on the outside, and you can get Ringo and Jackson off the field. I don't like, again, putting your best 11. Ringo and Jackson aren't close to your best 11 on defense. So I'm still advocating for that. Doubt it happens, but again, if you add him, trade for another edge rusher, or a corner, whatever you decide to do, I would rather the Eagles go to the Super Bowl when CJGJ is on their team. Just put it that way. He may be a little bit of a headache, but I also think that the culture in this locker room, the veterans in this locker room, he has respect for this team, obviously winning a Super Bowl. And he even, like, after he went on his little tirade after the trade, he walked that back and mentioned, Lane Johnson and some of the older guys on the team that he has respect for. So I do think, like, it'd be different in this locker room than the Houston locker room than with what went on. But yeah, so I'm gonna always advocate for that. The fourth quarter bothered me because, as I mentioned, we weren't able to kill the clock with the running game. Saquon, I think, had only like 40 yards rushing. He has less than half the yards that he had last year at this point in the year. He had over 770 yards rushing, I think, at this point last year. He's at like 380-ish, 390, whatever. So I'm not saying it's the Madden coverage jinx, but yeah, he's that, and I get it. The offensive line has not been good at all. I mean, Mekhi Becton is a road grader. Like, being able to run behind him makes life easier. Dickerson hasn't been healthy. Juergens hasn't been healthy. Mailata hasn't played well at all this year so far. And Lane Johnson came out of 2 games earlier this year, but he was better. I mean, he's still a Hall of Famer, so he somebody that I like is the least of my worries when it comes to the offensive line.
But again, I also think on the Saquon front, some of that has to come back to Kevin Patullo. Like, there were times where even the broadcast called out, like, he was like, didn't change the play up at all. Saw a box loaded with 8 guys, not just 7, not 6, but there was a couple times where he ran at 8 guys. Like, at what point do you call an audible and say, okay, they're stacking the box, it's clear we're not going to get this run off? Why does it make sense to do, a halfback draw or a halfback dive that's going to go right into the box, the stack box like that? I feel like some of that has to come back on Patullo and just figuring out how to get the run game going effectively. And I mean, I guess it was still a pretty predictable offense, but when they were forced to continue to go under center over and over again, there's a lot less tape on them going under center at that consistent of a rate and not running the football. So I think that was something that helped the passing game get going and kind of threw the Vikings off, was they were going under center way more because they were forced to because of Brett Toth, but they weren't running the ball. Whereas, in prior weeks, it was pretty clear that when they were going under center, they were going to run the football. So, I mean, and like you said earlier in the episode, that just all goes back to show, Kevin Patullo needs to see these things, read these things, implement these things, and find success using the things that have worked. And there's just no rhyme or reason in any game between play to play and from game to game what he saw that worked and seeing it consistently the next week or in future weeks. It just doesn't happen with Patullo, and it's so frustrating. And, when you have an offensive coordinator who's struggling to figure out the run game, paired with, like you said, the inconsistent offensive line play plus the injuries that are plaguing this offensive line, it's going to be really hard for Saquon Barkley it was always going to be really hard for Saquon Barkley to repeat what he did last year, but Saquon Barkley should not be on pace for less than 1,000 yards rushing. That's just not the Saquon Barkley that would be on any NFL team. This is your lead rusher. This is your lead back. This is a guy who you should be able to get going, and it makes zero sense why they can't get him going.
And as I've said before, I'm tired of hearing the offensive line say, we're one block away. Make that damn block if you're one block away. Do that. Like Tank Bigsby had only one carry, and he showed nice bursts. It was like 11-yarder. It was weird. Like when I saw that AJ Dillon was inactive, I was like, that means Bigsby is going to be the running back. I saw we're going to talk special teams, but Gibson was why he's been sitting on the practice squad and not elevated long ago is beyond me, because he is way better than what Bigsby and what we've had back there. But Bigsby running the football, I know it was only one carry, but he showed some speed on that. So maybe they'll start incorporating that. He's quicker than Will Shipley. Will Shipley didn't have a good job, didn't have a good day pass protection. Also, going back to the offensive line real quick, Shane Half put a couple of things out on, showing what the Eagles had Brett Toth trying to make blocks that he just can't make, and they consistently had him doing that. Like, again, that's a coaching thing. Why are you making your backup center, who's not very good anyway, and he's going to have to snap and step and try to block get around a D tackle and like shield them off? Why are you having them do that without help? So that's hopefully something, if you have to go to the backup center, whoever that may be, Drew Kendall, if they move Dickerson, whatever, depending on how comfortable they feel, like if they can't do it, help them or don't call the play, because that's what got Saquon hit in the backfield multiple times when Toth went into the game.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I do want to touch on the special teams, because it does feel like they have a pretty solid duo in Will Shipley and Xavier Gibson. We've been averaging I think we're at 20.5 yards per return, by far the worst in the NFL on kick returns, and it was Will Shipley had 2 for a 29 average, and Gibson had 5 for a 25.5 average. That's your duo. We don't need to see Tank Bigsby back there. He's great as your backup running back. He's got more burst than AJ Dillon. He's more athletic than AJ Dillon. He can be more than just a grind out a couple yards for you. He showed that. Will Shipley, I agree, he's not very good in pass protection, but he's not a total liability. We've seen him do some things as a running back, and now we're seeing him do things as a returner. I think that it was important. I've wanted to see Xavier Gibson since they signed him. There was no reason not. Maybe that first week with the team, let's let you get integrated. But after that, there was no reason. This special teams had given absolutely zero reason not to have Xavier Gibson elevated and to put him to work. And hopefully this proves it. And he can continue to be put to work week in and week out. He doesn't have to make it on the offensive side of the football if he's doing that on the kick return side of things, because we needed just a viable, good kick return option, and he definitely gave it. And Will Shipley gave a couple good returns as well. So it was good to see them finally start to maybe turn a corner in that aspect of the game, because I think we ranked 32nd in average yards per kick return, but we also ranked, I think I put it out on our Twitter. I think we rank it like 28th or 29th in average start and field position, which was like our own like 26. So obviously that doesn't fully take into account kick returns exclusively, but they would play a big part in it if you're constantly starting at your 20 and between your 20 and your 25. So I think as you see that improve, the kick return yards improve, you're going to see our start and field position improve. And this offense obviously constantly needs the most optimal field position they can possibly get until they're able to continue to figure things out.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the defensive side of the ball, Cooper DeJean had a good game. He knocked the ball out of Justin Jefferson's hand, and it was funny in the stadium. Like initially, the crowd went nuts, and then you just see the ball rolling around, and then Eagles fans went nuts. The nice combative back and forth between the fan bases. It was fun. He's also might be the best tackling corner in football. He is so good, so instinctual. His high football IQ, and I hope that he can. This is only his second year, but I feel like he can do anything. He can play any position on the field: corner, safety, linebacker. You put him up the defensive line, he can play there too. He's just such a weapon to have on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm looking forward to see how Vic Fangio utilizes him the rest of this year and going forward as he continues to just learn more about opposing offenses. You don't like college offenses are all pretty much the same, but like the NFL gets intricate. It gets sophisticated. He starts learning what people are going to do. And we can go back to last year against the Bengals, his rookie year on that fourth down play. He was chasing Jamar Chase around. He was going back and forth on that fourth down, and he made a great tackle. The tackle against Derrick Henry. Like he is so instinctual and just follows like all the techniques of tackling. I don't know if there's a better corner right now in football that is as good of a tackler as Cooper DeJean.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I hate to say it, but I wish we had a safety who had that similar instinctual play.
I mean, he could be that guy.
Capability. He could be that guy, but obviously we don't want him there.
Yeah.
He's way more impactful up at the line of scrimmage. Hopefully Andrew Makuba cleans up his tackling technique. We already know Reed Blankenship. Reed is Reed. He's not going to change in the coverage and instincts department. His tackling, if you've been tackling the way you've been tackling for the last 4 years, you're definitely not changing how you're tackling. That's just who Reed Blankenship is. And we've obviously, me and you, we've talked about him in the past, and we just accept that that's who Reed Blankenship is. We probably shouldn't pay him what he's going to end up getting paid. But I mean, I guess he hasn't been paid yet, which is kind of surprising, but maybe how he's playing the long game similar to last year where he wants everyone to play their years out, and then he's going to lock you in if he feels that you earned that opportunity.
I think he's just waiting to pay Jalen Carter, and then he'll pay everybody else.
That too, because obviously, it's you have some decisions to make on the Jalen Carter front. He's shown some extreme inconsistencies this year, and he's shown some inconsistencies in his play throughout. But when he's on, he's on. But is he with those humongous dollars as an interior defensive lineman who are getting paid some massive dollars? Obviously, I would argue he is. I think he is. A lot of the rest of this Eagles fan base thinks he is. But obviously in the NFL, it's a salary cap. There's money. You got to figure those things out, and you got to make it work so that you can get everybody else locked in. Because as you've noted in prior episodes as well, it's beginning to be the changing of the guard. All that spending was on the offensive side of the ball. Now you got to look on the flip side. You got Nakobe Dean, you got Jordan Davis, you got Jalen Carter. Moro Jomo's now emerging as someone you're going to have to pay. You got Q, you got Cooper DeJean, you got Reed Blankenship. You got a lot of these guys who are going to be due some money, and not all of them are going to be able to be brought back. So you have to manage the money to make that work. So it'll be interesting to see how he continues to manage that. But I agree with you. Cooper DeJean shows such great instincts. If we could get cornerbacks like that, like they're just not made that way anymore. There's just not enough of them made that way. But if we could continue to get corners like that, that's the type of corner you always want. It's so impressive. And as he continues to adapt to this NFL, He's going to be one of the best. He's not even just a nickel corner. Like, he's one of just the best versatile, like, near the line of scrimmage guys that you want. He's, you usually talk about that with linebackers, not necessarily all these nickel cornerbacks, but this is a guy who can do it all. And he has the tackling fortitude of a linebacker, but the instincts of a cornerback. And those things are definitely extremely hard to come by. But I mean, there's been some really good things, defensively. Morajoma had another really good game. Jordan Davis has quieted down, but he's remained fairly consistent. Jahad Campbell tested out on the edge. We didn't see a ton from Jahad Campbell, but I mean, Jalen Hunt flashed that athleticism. I think Jalen Carter, obviously, we know Jalen Carter played a massive part in what led to that interception. Jalen Hunt just dropped back into coverage and just happened to be there to be able to make the play on the route. It was like a slant route that was going right behind him. There was some good plays. There's so much promise in this defense. It's just when they're on the field as much as they are, and I think that the Vikings controlled time of possession again I think they controlled time of possession by like 7 or 8 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're on the field for, I think it was 31 minutes that defense was on the field, it becomes really difficult to be consistent and to not get tired and to not make mistakes and have lapsed so much, and your offense isn't able to give you the support. And like you said, that also lends back to the Russian attack, and we can't run the clock down. And the 3 and outs, when they happen, they just happen so fast. And this defense is eventually bound to become a liability, but not for any fault of their own.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it was good to get the win. Honestly, in the fourth quarter, I really thought Carson was going to take the Vikings down the score. And when they threw that touchdown to Hockenson, that wasn't for the lead, but it was to get within a couple of points. I am shocked. And it was initially called a touchdown on the field. I am shocked that they overturned it. And especially with the Devontae Smith play earlier in the game, it was ruled a catch. They kept it a catch. I was shocked. And we were sitting around a bunch of Eagles fans, sitting around Vikings fans. I was like, look, they didn't overturn Smitty's play earlier. They're probably not going to overturn this. I was like, whatever the rule, if it was ruled incomplete, it would have stayed incomplete. It was ruled a touchdown. It's probably going to stay a touchdown. And I said the same thing for Smitty's. Smitty's stayed the same. This one changed. I was in shock. And you could hear the Viking fans. They were not happy with that. And it's funny that Viking fans said that the Eagles got most of the call when most of the penalties were against the Eagles, and I think only 3 were on the Vikings. So I don't want to hear that crap. But yeah, it was interesting. Just like the Eagles got fortunate there. Carson again making a move outside the pocket because the Eagles couldn't get pressure, and but he forced Hockenson to dive for it. Could have hit him in stride. He wouldn't have to dive, and there's no question if it was a touchdown or not. But that was a big play by the Eagles. And then they got a sack, I think, a play later by Uche. So that helped, and they weren't able to get a touchdown that drive, and I think they had to settle for a field goal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, at this point, you have to survive the ground. And I think that that's the biggest thing that people struggle with when deciding on that. I don't think either of those were catches. If you go truly by did they survive the ground, both of them lost control of the ball once they hit the ground. Did they, re-get it back? Absolutely. But it's surviving the ground. And I mean, I understand it's difficult because it's what's a catch when standing and what's a catch when going to the ground. There's 2 very different rules at play when you're talking about a catch, keeping 2 feet in, blah, 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 versus a catch and surviving the ground. 2 very different things. And as an Eagles fan, I don't think either of those are catches. And I mean, we're not going to give back what was given to us. We've lost games and we can point to many different situations with the referees. Everybody can do that, but the NFL just will never be able to live and die on reviewing every single play and every single call, because on every single play there is a hold. On every single play, there's likely a DPI or an OPI or something. There's definitely something you can catch on every play, but then you're going to have a 3.5-hour game turned into a 5-hour game because you have to review every single thing. This isn't like the MLB where you can implement the ABS system next year, where it's going to be the strike system, and they don't need an umpire anymore, or they can use however they plan to use it. It's not that way. You can't do that in the NFL, and that's why the NFL is trying to find this delicate balance between the right amount of challenges, when to use New York, when not to use New York. And the reason it made more sense in that situation to overturn the Hawkinson play was because every single scoring play is reviewed. So you knew that it was going to be reviewed. You knew that it was going to come under greater scrutiny than the Devontae Smith play. But at the end of the day, I don't think either of them were catches, but I am never going to give back something because the referees have taken stuff from us in the past as well. And I think that that's a reality that you have to accept. I don't think I have ever been on Twitter before after a game where so much of an individual fan base was slowing down plays and picking out penalties at every step of the play. Never. Like the Minnesota
Vikings does it.
Fan base was
everybody
brutal.
does it when we run. Everybody does it when we run this tush push. And I tell people all the time, the refs are watching it in live speed. They can't sit there and like slow it down as live, like as the play is happening. It's so. I mean, they did call, and it's funny that it happened to be on the. It's funny that it happened to be on AJ Brown when they actually called the false start on the tush push. It wasn't even on an offensive lineman. I still don't understand why the Eagles go hard count on that. Like, it doesn't make sense. Just run it. Nobody can stop it. And you saw how the Vikings tried to have a sideways guy. Chris Jones tried that in the Super Bowl and it didn't work. So, and Chris Jones is better than all the defensive linemen that the Vikings have. So
I know, and it was crazy because everyone was like, they finally figured out how to stop it. And I'm like, did nobody watch the Super Bowl? Chris Jones did that same thing, and Chris Jones hurt himself trying to be the guy to do it that way. So, I mean, it wasn't new. It's just a strategy that seemed to kind of create a disturbance in it because it's something different. And that's kind of what defensive coordinators have to do, is something different to attack it, because something unique might just be the thing that stops it. So, but it wasn't.
Well, that's also when the Eagles can go to that could also be when the Eagles go to a variation, hand it off to Saquon on a sweep, and he takes it up the sideline because nobody's out there. So like if teams are going to try that, and the Eagles can do something different based off of that. So hopefully we'll see what happens, going forward against different teams and how they try to stop it. And it's just, I just hope a penalty doesn't get called on the Eagles on the tush push in a big situation. But that's when, if there's a 4th and 5 or whatever, or 4th and 4, and the Eagles aren't able to tush push it and they need to throw it downfield, you have another cheat play, which throw it up to AJ Brown. And it happened twice. Obviously the first touchdown, the 37-yarder, and then on 3rd and 4, when the Isaiah Rodgers was lined up on AJ Brown, he did a sluggo, and Jalen hit him for about 46 to pretty much ice the game. So that's just awesome. Love that play call. I don't know if KP called it. I don't know if it was just Jalen and AJ. Even if they don't talk, Jalen and AJ still have that sense. They look at each other, they know what they want to do. They could not be talking. They could be pissed off at each other. AJ can be pissed off at Jalen, but he's going to get him the ball and he's going to make a play for him, beating Isaiah Rodgers. And it was just, Jalen threw it off his back foot too, but put it up high enough to where AJ can run under it, get the first down, end the game.
Yeah, I agree. Like you saw, I think it might have been on that the 4th and 4 play where Jalen was out of the pocket and he was just waving AJ Brown down the field, and AJ Brown went down the field and he just lobbed it up there and put it where he only knew his wide receiver could get it. And that's the reality of it. You don't have to talk to be able to communicate and make plays happen. And both of these guys are super competitive. And at the end of the day, whether it's ugly, whether it's pretty, it doesn't matter to them. A win is a win. And it's exactly like Saquon Barkley said. It doesn't matter how you do it. Sometimes winning is just winning, and in the football and in the NFL, you're never going to give wins back. You're going to take them however you get them, because they are so hard to come by, especially the NFL. Like, I know that the MLB and the NBA will never be able to get there, but the NFL and the NHL have the most parity of all the 4 major sports leagues. And I hate to say it, but it's obviously because of the salary cap. It's obviously because there's a salary cap in existence. You have to spend a certain amount. You can't spend more than a certain amount. And it just, the parity that the NFL has created has just made the game even more enticing, even more intriguing. It's been a good season so far for the NFL, I think.
And if you look at the NFC playoff picture right now, you have the Green Bay Packers that are 4-1-1, that they're leading the NFC right now. Give me 1 second, I'm about to pull it up. And then just looking at the NFC overall, here we go.
The Lions are 5-2. The Bucks
Lions
are 5-2.
The Bucks are 5-2. The Niners, Seahawks, and Rams are 5-2. The Eagles are 5-2, and the Bears are 4-2. The Panthers are 4-3. But you think about it, Dallas is 3-1. The Eagles beat Dallas. The Eagles beat the Vikings, who are 3-3. After their bye, which is coming up after the Giants game, they have the Packers and Lions and Cowboys in back-to-back weeks. And then the Bears. I think it's in that order. So like the Eagles have the third toughest remaining schedule in the NFL, but like they've beaten Tampa already. They've beaten the Rams already. So like the Eagles are they're handling business where they need to handle business. And if they can continue to do it, you stack the win. You mentioned it, stack the wins where you can, and hopefully you get enough wins to get the home field advantage. This might be a year where 12 wins, 13 wins gets the number one seed in the NFC. It won't be 15 wins like it was last year. So you keep beating these teams. You have the Giants this week before the bye. I think the Eagles losing to the Giants last week, and I'll probably bring this up again later this week when we talk about it. Talk about the game. That's going to help them not overlook them going into the bye. They don't want to get swept by the Giants. And after like the way the Giants celebrated and like there was a bunch of talk after the game after they won, which rightfully deserved. They beat us by 17. The Eagles are going to come out and be as focused. I mean, Jalen Carter's going to play this game. Nakobe Dean's going to be playing this game. Brandon Graham potentially might be playing this game. He might only get 10 snaps, but he's going to be out there. And just that, his leadership and just him being him could help this defense. And then after the bye, mention Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears. It doesn't lighten up after that. And then at the Chargers, like it's a murderer's row. Like they're going to be playing some big games against teams in your conference that you're going to be battling with to potentially get to another Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had a very difficult schedule. We thought one of the hardest gauntlets was the first 4 weeks, but it really looks like fresh out of the bye, those 4 plus weeks are going to be a gauntlet. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think we have the best strength of win percentage. Like the teams we've beaten, their records overall is I think 617 win percentage, which is the best in the NFL. So strength of schedule going forward, to me, we're gonna get wins. We're gonna get some ugly wins. We might get a pretty win. We might throw a pretty win in there, and we may take a tough loss here and there. But like you said, this isn't a team that's gonna go 15-2, probably not 14-3. But that's not for lack of trying, despite the way the first 7 weeks have gone. But it's just we have a very tough schedule. We have a very tough conference, and we're just taking the wins and getting the wins where we can, because you have to stack them up. It's now or never. That's what's going to end up landing you where you need to land in the playoffs. Hopefully with a bye in the first round. Depending how the rest of the season goes, but things are looking pretty tough atop the NFC, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But we have one of the best strengths of win percentage, victories, strength of schedule so far, and it's not going to change how difficult the strength of schedule gets. But that this Eagles team, especially bringing Brandon Graham in, it's just they're looking for someone that will make sure this team doesn't run flat, doesn't go flat again, because we've seen on a number of occasions where it just seems like this team flatlines, and it can't happen. It can't continue to happen. We need to stay motivated. We need to stay excited. This year, some of the games have definitely not been as fun as last year. Last year, it was such a different vibe. The team was having so much fun. Win or loss, the vibe was there. And it just feels like they're just talking heads, making the points that the media wants to hear. And they need to get those vibes back, build that culture back, and be what they were last year. Because for the most part, a lot of the players are the same. There's no reason to be that different. And not have that motivation and that drive to that Super Bowl hangover per se. So hopefully, Brandon Graham back in the building will help, and hopefully, getting back on their winning ways will help them continue to drive them forward for the rest of the season. Maybe the mini bye help, maybe the bye will help them even more. Let's wait and see, but let's not overlook the New York Giants next.
Nope, not at all. And I'm trying to avoid comparing the vibes to 2023, but we'll see what happens. I think this team, since the majority of these guys were here, learned from that, and it may not feel like last year, but it's also not 2023. Two quick questions, or two things to expand on quickly before we finish off here. Jalen was 19 of 23, 326, 3 touchdown, a perfect passer rating, 158.3. Best regular season game of his career. Obviously, the Super Bowls were his best games of his career. Best regular season game of his career.
Thinking back, I mean, I would
Tennessee, he threw for 350 something, but 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think that there has to be context put in there. Like, how important was it to come out of this with a win instead of losing 3 in a row? Like, it was vital to lock this win down. I would it could be something where we look back at the end of the season and say that game was probably the turning point, because that was, hopefully we will look back and say before that game was the lowest of the low for this team, and things continue to go upwards. I would argue, yes, strictly when you take into account everything that happened around it, not purely the stats, but also what was going on around the games, the noise around this team, and the circumstances around this team. I would argue yes.
Yeah, I think I would agree there. And then the Brandon Graham real quick. I love Brandon Graham. I'm glad that he's back. Like, he didn't want to retire in the first place. I don't want that to be the only move at edge. It can't be the only move at edge. I know Nolan Smith is also coming back, and probably after the bye. Still can't be the only move at edge. They need to go out, and whether it's Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Draymond Jones, Trey Hendrickson, which isn't going to happen because the Bengals won last week, but you know what I mean. Hopefully Dallas doesn't get Max Crosby, and maybe how we can finagle that. Whatever it may be, Brandon Graham, returning Nolan Smith cannot be the only moves at edge. What are your thoughts?
Couldn't agree more. I was the one that was on X as soon as the move happened and said the addition of Brandon Graham and the comeback of Nolan Smith should not be treated as, well, this is like making a trade. We're getting this guy back and this guy back, so why do we need to make a deal? 100% not. There's still issues. Jalen Hunt is good, but he is not a starter. He still has some.
They put too much pressure on him.
They do. There's still some development. Moro Jomo was ready to take the step up. Jalen Hunt, I would argue, was not ready to take that step. He was not ready to be a starting edge rusher. And while he's made some plays, he's looked very inconsistent, but so has the majority of this edge rusher room. Nolan Smith was the one that needed to take the big step, and of course he got injured. And hopefully when he comes back, he can maybe take that next step up, but how much his injury may affect him going forward. Can he get to the point where he was, 8 sacks in the last 10 games last season? It'll be interesting to see how that all goes, but I couldn't agree more. I took text almost the minute it was announced, or the minute people were starting to say their sources told him Brandon Graham was coming back, and I said this can't be the only move. There needs to be another move. It doesn't have to be Trey Hendrickson. It can be a veteran like Bradley Chubb. It can be a guy like Jalen Phillips, but you better be prepared to pay him. I don't think we want just the rental. Like, if you're going to get the veteran, yes, it's probably a rental. But if you get a guy like Jalen Phillips, hopefully he's a guy that you can secure for the future as well. It doesn't have to be the Trey Hendrickson move, but those two moves alone cannot be the only moves.
Yep, definitely not. And still a corner too. I don't know. I mean, I know we got the picks. I don't know what we are financially, so it'd be tough to try to fill all those holes, but hopefully Howie's able to do it, as the trade deadline is 2 weeks from today. So we'll see if the Eagles are able to make any moves. because that's right after. And Howie will have a better idea because the Eagles will be on a bye week, and you'll be able to see what teams are looking to pretty much sell and get ready for next year. Maybe Jerome Johnson, what the hell's his name from the Jets?
Jermaine Johnson.
Thank you, Jermaine Johnson or Will McDonald from the Jets. Like there are a bunch of names out there that hopefully the Eagles, obviously Howie is calling because he always does, see if they can make a move to help improve the defense, because we can't. It'd be nice to try to see if we can make another run at the Super Bowl. Don't want to. While it's fun if you win the Super Bowl every other year, that's awesome. But maybe I'd like to win 2 in a row just to say that we did it. All right. The Eagles are 5-2. They have one more game left before their bye, and it's at home against the New Jersey Giants, looking for revenge from their loss 2 weeks ago. We'll be back later this week to get you set for that matchup. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network at Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Victory Green Hour.